What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the No World Order Podcast IG Live Edition. I am your co-host, Drew.
I'm your co-host, Zach.
And we are coming from San Diego, California, and we have an exciting, fascinating, interesting episode today. We're going to start it off with a little ghost story from Zach. We'll see how much I believe in that. We will go over some origins of Halloween and also the origins and history of witches. I thought it was pretty fitting to go over this stuff. This close to Halloween. And, dude, as I was doing some research, it kind of ties in with all the fairies and all that kind of stuff as well, man.
Do you know why? Because it's all fucking demonic shit. That's why. But
so they say.
Yeah, that's right, man. So story time?
Story time. Yeah.
Story time. Secret time. Okay, so this is mine. This is like the only story that I have that brought me any close to anything like weird, right? My dad's seen ghosts. My dad's seen UFOs. I haven't seen shit. But when I was in, and this is how I remember it, and I've reached out to people since then, and their stories are also a little similar. So when I was in elementary school, I was like in 4th or 5th grade. I remember our class. I remember our teacher. I remember there were different groups, and then there was like these two kids that didn't really fit in. They're kind of unkempt, kind of dirty, kind of socially awkward or weird, whatever. But I remember one day they just like weren't there anymore, and it was weird. And like the kids started to wonder like why, and we kind of talk about it. And I don't remember this, but I reached out to another one of my classmates recently, and she said she remembers our teacher acknowledging that they weren't there and that they weren't going to come back and being like morose looking about it. Kind of sad, kind of like it was awkward. It was weird. I don't remember that, but I do remember them not being there and kind of hearing through the grapevine or what, overhearing maybe, I don't know, I was a kid, that they weren't coming back because they had like, there had been some sort of fire or something like that. And so I asked around and I was listening and this and that. And the story was, they locked a girl in a garage, and this was on base. This was on Camp Pendleton. So all the old houses and the old garages were separate. Houses were here. Garages were like in a line elsewhere out in the back, right? They weren't connected to the houses. So they locked this little girl who was like 3 or 4 in a garage and set the fucking garage on fire to like kill her, right? You know what I mean? To sacrifice her in fire.
Crazy.
It's super duper weird, man.
Hold on, before we go any further, is that story verifiable? Like, can you look it up online and be like, yes, this legitimately happened?
We'll get there. I'll leave that as a cliffhanger for now. But, well, yeah. So that's what I remember, and I was like, oh, that's fucking, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's trippy and weird, and I don't know what to make of that, but okay, that's in my brain now. And then I didn't really think about it for years and years and years. Then I was about like 19, I had some friends, and one of my buddies had a little brother, right? And they lived in this area, Wire Mountain 3, that this girl had allegedly died in this garage, right? Been set on fire by these two boys. And one day he was like, oh yeah, there's like this little ghost that haunts the like area that these kids were hanging out in and this and that. And I was like, oh, that's fucking trippy. And I was like asking about it. He's like, oh yeah, it's this little girl. And like, they always see her on top of a garage. And it all kind of came rushing back to me. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. And so I went down there and I had them like show me, I think. And like, I didn't see when it had happened, but I know that there was like caution tape and it was burned down. So it was like a scene and everyone went to go look. So that was really weird and all kind of came rushing back. I still didn't really know what to make of it, but I was like kind of blown away that there had been some sort of like sighting or whatever, it sounded similar, similar age of the girl, all that kind of similar location, all that kind of shit. And then just this year, my wife is on a group on Facebook that tells ghost stories, and someone on base was like, oh yeah, there's this little girl ghost that comes into my house. My kid talks to her. He told me that she said she doesn't like adults. She apparently the little boy was like, oh yeah, she's like red, and he calls her the flying girl because she just like floats around the damn house. And the mom said she had seen it a few times. The kid sees it more often. And I just was kind of poking around. It turns out that was actually in a different location, but it kind of got me like back into it. Yeah. So I started digging. I told Valerie the story. We connected with somebody online who went through the death records of San Diego County. Yeah. And he went back because I was like, she was this age around that year. I couldn't really remember. And he had found that, in fact, there was a girl that was 3 that had, it said she died like in a fire on base. Right. So like we have that down. What I haven't been able to verify is that the boys did it and that they did it intentionally. But that's how I remember it, and I'm still in the midst of trying to figure it all out. But apparently it's a thing. Apparently, after she died, there have been sightings in that area of a little girl ghost who doesn't like adults, which makes sense because these kids were 11. Like, they were bigger. She could have looked at them as adults if she was 3.
Yeah.
And she was red. Kind of goes with the fire thing. And the one witness, you know, said, like, she appears, disappears in that same area. It's just really trippy. And, like, ghost stuff is like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Ghosts. Yeah, everyone hears some shit. But, like, I remember when this girl died. So I feel more invested. I don't know. It feels weird.
That makes sense. It's like, but to me, because you said, like, some of the parents, or one of the parents kind of saw it or something, but usually when it comes to ghosts, it feels like it's all like kids, man, and kids have imaginations, and kids see things that aren't necessarily there, you know, like, and I think a lot of that has to do with, like, you know, stuff on TV and stuff like that. It puts it into your head, so then you're like out with your friends or something, and you want to see something, so you think you see something and you run with it. I'm not saying that's what this is, but a lot of the times it's like people remembering stuff from when they were kids or kids' accounts and stuff, and like you can't necessarily trust that, and that's where it's like where I find it tricky, because it's like adults usually don't see this type of stuff. It kind of like phases out, and I don't know if that means like we're just becoming less aware, or and kids are more or kids are more aware and, you know,
less fluoridated,
more natural and stuff. But I don't know, that's where it just kind of gets a little tricky to me. It just seems like it's a lot of kids instead of you know, real verifiable accounts. But that is an interesting story for sure.
If anyone out there is like interested or into it, I think it's called like Ghost Stories of Camp Pendleton or some shit like that.
That's the group on.
That's a group on Facebook.
Gotcha.
Not that I advocate for Facebook. Fuck that.
Yeah.
But if you're on there and you want to have a good time, go there. All sorts of people talk about all sorts of shit they experienced. They got priests going in. They got people with sage going in. And there's go read it. It's a trip.
That is. So, on to Halloween.
Yeah. How far back are we going?
I'm going all the way back.
Yeah.
Well, I took quite a few notes all the way to about here. So we'll get into it. You know, you'll chime in as well. But
yeah.
I thought this was interesting because I just randomly threw on American Horror Story Coven just about a week and a half ago or so. I've already seen it, but I've been watching it with somebody. And, dude, it just really stuck out because in this episode, Kathy Bates' character says, like, one of the ladies, before Kathy Bates talks, she's like, oh, do you know why today's my favorite day? Oh, it's Halloween. And then Kathy Bates' character says, oh, is it the end of harvest already? I suppose you won't be lighting any bonfires and putting out food to keep the demons at bay. Evil spirits will walk the earth this night. The dead shall rise and fearful pranks ensue should we fail to protect ourselves. I heard that. I was like, dude, I wonder if that is, like, true to the origins of Halloween. And I looked it up, and it was. I was like, wow, this is so interesting because typically entertainment kind of twists the truth and things, you know. It's obviously not the full truth like we'll get into, but
that's a pretty solid introductory statement.
Yeah,
I was like, for someone who doesn't know.
Wow. So I just thought it was because I just randomly threw that season on.
Kathy Bates tells the truth, I think, is what we can take from this.
Yeah. So I just thought it was really interesting how I went back. I watched this, you know, I watched everything except the 1984.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, I'm just getting into it now. I'm like 2 episodes in, and it's really good.
It's the best.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting. I randomly picked this one, and then we're dealing with the witches and Halloween, and it all kind of tied in within that one statement. It really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Halloween, contraction of All Hallows Eve, a holiday observed on October 31st, the evening before All Saints or All Hallows Day. The celebration marks the day before the Western Christian feast of All Saints and initiates the season of All Hallowtide, which lasts 3 days and concludes with All Souls Day. In much of Europe and most of North America, observance of Halloween is largely non-religious.
Secular.
Yeah. Halloween had its origins in the festival of Samhain, among the Celts of ancient Britain and Ireland. According to the ancient Book of Invasions, each Samhain, the people of one Irish village sacrificed 2/3 of their children, their corn, and their milk to the supernatural Fomorians. Some believed that Celtic warriors would behead their enemy and mount their heads by the villages to protect themselves from evil, and that's kind of where we get the jack-o'-lantern from. They would kind of stick their heads on a stake and burn it from the inside, and they'd burn like human fat in there as well or something like that. So yeah,
they're making soap.
Yeah, so it definitely has some dark origins for sure, especially when you go back pre-Halloween, back to the Samhain, the Celts, and all
even
of that.
Before All Hallows and All Saints Day was marked by the church. Before then, when all this Samhain shit was going down, fucks. I've read like 3 origins of the jack-o'-lantern as well. That's a new one. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. There's. That's what was kind of confusing about all of this. I was looking up different information. I looked up more of a Christian side. It's all evil, and then like this other stuff, it was like just pointing out the facts of stuff, and then so I was trying to get all angles of it, and there was kind of contradictory things throughout it. So it's like I don't really know what to believe, but I kind of took notes on everything, It says, on the day corresponding to November 1st on contemporary calendars, the new year was believed to begin. That date was considered the beginning of the winter period. On this date, the herds were returned from pasture and land tenures were renewed. During the Samhain festival, the souls of those who had died were believed to return to visit their homes, and those who had died during the year were believed to journey to the other world. People set bonfires on hilltops for relighting their hearth fires for the winter and to frighten away evil spirits. Sometimes they wore masks and other disguises to avoid being recognized by the ghosts thought to be present. It was in those ways that beings such as witches, goblins, fairies, and demons came to be associated with the day. The period was also thought to be favorable for divination on matters such as marriage, health, and death.
That's weird. That's interesting because I was reading that some of those druid fucks would like put on masks to like mingle with the demons. I'm sorry, the ghosts and the ancestors and all that stuff too.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's just the
Christian website I saw was all about the druids and this and the druids.
Dog, and they're the ones that did it.
But when it's not necessarily that, and that more coincides with what Kathy Bates' character in The Coven was saying.
So the secular stuff is siding with the horror story facts. Weird.
I don't know.
If you're Christian and you're like a Bible person, then like you regard this stuff as bad. But if you're not, then you don't. You know what I mean? So I think
the origins are definitely horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's why it's so hard to like take part in it now because like it started off we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, in the 7th century current era, Pope Boniface IV established All Saints' Day, originally on May 13th, and in the following century, perhaps in an effort to supplant the pagan holiday with the Christian observance, it was moved to November 1st. The evening before All Saints' Day became a holy or hallowed eve, and thus Halloween. By the end of the Middle Ages, the secular and the sacred days had merged. The Reformation essentially put an end to the religious holiday among Protestants, although in Britain especially, Halloween continued to be celebrated as a secular holiday. So why did the Christians then and the Protestants like try and co-op Halloween, but then now they're saying like we don't want anything to do with it?
I think people become, well, not that I'm explaining it all away, but I think there's people that jump sides to bring down the other. I think there's bad people that pretend to be Christian and they still do bad shit, and I think there's Christians that participate in evil shit without acknowledging or really knowing, I guess, that it's not okay. So I think it's just too muddy to separate, and I almost feel like we have to look at it as a whole, almost like the past is our enemy. The past is the lie.
is supposed to be the religious holiday, right? From my understanding, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And then they just completely abandon it? Like, why?
See, and I have it as Pope Gregory the Third moving it from May 13th to November 1st. Who did you have? Something funny sounding. I remember
Pope
that.
Boniface?
Pope Boniface.
See, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, how can there be this much contradictory stuff? Man, that's really interesting.
Maybe it was a nickname.
I don't like it.
Maybe Pope Gregory the Third's nickname was Boniface.
Yeah,
maybe that came from some other weird shit he was doing. Who knows?
He was boning face.
I mean, he was a pope, wasn't he?
Ooh.
Oh, this is where the Christians and the Catholics divide.
The celebration of Halloween was largely forbidden among the early American colonists, although in the 1800s there developed festivals that marked the harvest and incorporated elements of Halloween. When large numbers of immigrants, including the Irish, went to the United States beginning in the mid-19th century, they took their Halloween traditions with them. In the 20th century, Halloween became one of the principal U.S. holidays, particularly among children, which is
weird.
A little weird, right? I think that's weird.
Of like between Christianity
especially
and let's say,
when you know the origins, the Samhain origins, and then it's like catered to children. I do find that really strange.
It is weird because between Christian, not to paint another fucking like Hegelian dialectic, but between like Christians and let's just say Satanists, right, or occultists, who is known more for targeting children? I think it's fucking occultists.
Or who you said?
Like Christians or occultists, Satanists, whatever. You know what I mean? Like people that do that shit.
Yeah.
That seems like also modern day capitalism targets children. So I guess that's one and the same as well. Because that's all Halloween is now, right? I mean, it's a money making holiday. They need to keep it going because candy's got to sell.
Exactly. That is true.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different type of ritual for sure. You know?
I do like candy.
Me too.
Cinnamon bears.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
That's the ritual, man. It's the red and you're eating a bear. Fuck. Damn, dude. You're pretty ritualistic.
Bro, we ain't vegan.
Celebrants wear masks and costumes for parties and for trick-or-treating, thought to have derived from the British practice of allowing the poor to beg for food called soul cakes. Trick-or-treaters go from house to house with the threat that they will pull a trick if they do not receive a treat, usually candy. That's pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Like it's the rich making the poor beg.
See, okay, that we'll have to come back. We'll have to do a Christmas episode or 3 because that's what I saw for the origin of like what is it called when people dress up like they're in the fucking 20s and they go singing from door to door during Christmas?
Oh, the carolers?
Yeah. So caroling, I read, started from the poor people going to the rich people's houses and they would fucking sing and like wreck their house until they gave them money and food to leave.
Interesting.
So there's like a class divide.
Yeah.
For both holidays.
Yeah.
Weird.
Definitely. Yeah, that really stuck out to me is like where the trick-or-treating came from. It's like they were gonna like, and that comes from the Samhain thing too, where they would do that. But they
I started my.
This is where it gets tricky because the Samhain, they would go door to door, and
it sounds like a bunch of socialists asking for other people's stuff.
So the Samhains would go door to door, asking for their children for the human sacrificing. That was one thing I read, but then we take it from the poor and the class division and things like that. So again, there's this, it's weird because you have to separate the Samhain and Halloween, but we get a lot of the Halloween traditions from the Samhain tradition. So I don't know. It's really interesting.
If we looked at Halloween just now, it's a day where people like to dress up like whores and eat candy, right? And wear costumes and get drunk and fuck. Like that's what it is now.
An excuse to party, just like any holiday.
Yeah, now. No, that's fair. That's fair. But then there's like, the Christian side that says Druids are bad, which that's where I'm at. And then there's apparently the secular side that blames everything on Christians. So that's so bizarre to me. Like, cause I noticed your research started with like, the Christian said this and this and that. And mine is like, the fucking Druids back in Gaul started doing all this stuff. And that's how it all started. Continue.
Yeah. I mean, it's both.
It is both. And that's why the show is a good balance.
Yeah, exactly. You're all evil. I'm like, I'm not sure about that.
It's all
another symbol is the jack-o'-lantern, a hollowed-out pumpkin, originally a turnip or potato carved into a demonic face and lit with a candle inside. I don't necessarily, again, I think that comes from the Samhain tradition of them beheading the people and mounting it on the stake and all of that, but
I read a few things. One of the things I read about the jack-o'-lanterns was that, so the druids back in Gaul, way back in the day, I don't even have a year, back in the day, would basically control shit in secret. And then they would, on Halloween or Samhain, whenever they were calling it at that point, would go from door to door, basically doing the trick-or-treat thing. Right? Yeah. They would like go to the door and talk to the adult male of the house and say like, give us a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if they gave him a sacrifice, cool. They'd put the little carving of a turnip or a potato or whatever to ward off spirit.
Know. Yeah,
exactly. They're good. They already did their fucking blood sacrifice. But if you didn't give into it, if you didn't wear a mask, then what they would do is place a fucking hexagram or a pentagram or something on your door to summon the demons to come fuck with you.
Exactly.
And then there was another one I read about like people on boats that had like glowing things that they would put a flame in to attract the lost people at sea. I think that was more of a precursor. It wasn't even just the firstborn. It was 2/3 of the 66%.
Ooh.
Well, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. From the anti-druid perspective, it was, you give us a sacrifice. I don't even know if it needed to be a kid. I think they're like, just give us fucking someone. We just want to kill someone.
Well, it said like
we want to do the Wicker Man,
their corn, their milk. You know,
that I didn't see, but that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Not
but
cool,
I think it was in addition to the child. I don't think it was like one or the other. I think it was like, give me your tithing, give me your 10%, just like church. You know,
just like taxes.
Just I
don't know. Taxes are more. Never mind.
Ooh, 62% under a Biden administration.
Masonic IRS.
Oh man. And this is where, so the next thing we go, this is where we kind of get the mix of witches and Halloween and how that kind of came to be. And I thought this was interesting. Halloween is not the only time when all the witches come out and celebrate. There are more events like Beltane, which marks the 1st of May, which would go back to the around the initial time of when that All Saints Day was, I guess. And Midsummer's Eve, which coincides with summer solstice. For Sweden, Easter is also associated with witches. People believe that on Easter Sunday, Swedish witches. That's not Swedish fishes, by the way. Say that 3 times fast. Damn. Swedish witches would fly up a chimney on their brooms to meet and reveal on mountaintops.
There's the chimney as a passage, like Santa.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know, right? I read that too. I was like, "What? What's up with the chimney, man?"
Weird.
To these days, children dress up as witches and go door to door seeking for treats, which is similar to trick or treating. On Easter, of course, witches were perceived as evil beings by early Christians in Europe, inspiring the iconic Halloween figure. So again, there's the Christians trying to make some shit into what it's not.
As opposed to the Druids that were feeding death by birth is what they were all about. And they just decided October. And here's another question I have that I don't even have an answer for, but let's see what you have to say about it. We're on a Gregorian calendar, right? Back then, did they not use a lunar calendar for everything? When did the Gregorian calendar come into place? And like, we're not doing it on the same day every year that the Druids were doing their shit. You know what I mean? Or May 13th on the old Pope Gregory calendar is different than the Gregorian calendar now. So I don't know what that means, but it's just an observation I made like on the way here that it's not the same shit.
Yeah, it's not. And none of the holidays would be, you know?
What if they still use the lunar calendar to sacrifice on like full moons and shit?
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Could be. It could be. Any other information you had on Halloween before we dive deep into witches?
Essentially, I blame the Druids for everything. They were the original Masons. They dealt with all that unseen shit out in the woods, doing their fucking shit.
Yeah.
They had a very strict hierarchy that they would even resort to like fucking fighting and like killing each other if there was a dispute amongst that hierarchy.
I heard
that from Julius Caesar. I wasn't there.
I was reading something that druids still get together at Stonehenge on Halloween to do some sort of shit. So
yeah, and I've read that they excavated at one point and they found different like mass graves around Stonehenge.
That's interesting.
So here these druids are still doing like, and it's I'm sure it's the same shit as the Georgia fucking Guidestones. You know what I mean? Like, there's some druids around there too, I bet.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Okay, here's some interesting stuff on Halloween. Oh no, that's kind of witchy. Maybe we can just start with the witches.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
So witches. I thought, man, this was interesting stuff. I was into this. Images of witches have appeared in various forms throughout history, from evil, wart-nosed women huddling over a cauldron of boiling liquid to hag-faced, cackling beings riding through the sky on brooms wearing pointy hats.
To Hillary Clinton.
Early witches were people who practiced witchcraft, using magic spells and calling upon spirits for help or to bring about change. Most witches were thought to be pagans doing the devil's work. Many, however, were simply natural healers or so-called wise women whose choice of profession was misunderstood. And that is where I believe.
Oh, the poor witches with their sacrifices are so misunderstood. That's where I'm at.
Hey.
So check this out. Can I give a little bit? Did you have anything about Crone?
I don't.
Can I give you a few sentences on Crone real quick? Okay. So back in the days of Samhain, where the Celtic pagan fucking druids were sacrificing people, demanding children from you, or, any sort of a life they could end, they would also put out, like with the bonfires and stuff, they would put out food for them to feast on, which, just pointing that out because that's another fucking Christmas thing, right?
Yeah.
Leaving cookies out for Santa.
And then that was the elves too, remember?
And that was the elves too!
Yeah.
Dude, it's all the same shit.
That's
okay.
So a trip. When I was reading some of this stuff, I was like, man, how we did this was perfect.
Like it was all planned. We did it on purpose like that. So back in the days of Samhain, I say it's Samhain. There's like 5 different pronunciations.
I went to like Google or whatever, DuckDuckGo, and typed in how you say it plus pronunciation, and I was like, okay, I'm just going with this.
Yeah.
And it was Samhain.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But I've read like there's like 5 different minor differences depending on where in Gaul you were, and I'm like, oh fuck it, who cares? So anyway, I read that Samhain was started out to honor Crone, who was an elder priestess. She's actually the reason I think we started to refer to witches as hags later on in the day. But Crone was part of the Trinitarian goddess, which is representative of the waxing, the waning, and the full moon. Especially interesting this year because it's a full moon on Halloween. It's going to be bad out there. Some of you guys will not make it through Halloween. I'm sorry. But she was like the original witch. She was the one doing all the spells and all that shit. She was part of the Trinitarian goddess, which is also represented, especially now in like movies and media, by like a female with 3 faces. Like it's like face front, face to the side, face to the other side.
Yeah.
That's that Trinitarian goddess. It's super pagan. But that is where. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is someone a little different. In the Sumerian days, Gilgamesh talked about Lilith, which we had touched on a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
Lilith, which also was known as nightmares or night hags. They would transform at dusk and dawn. So that's where.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some people say like, okay, well, that's where the werewolf thing came from. And some people take it a step further and are like, oh, okay, so there was a talking snake in the Bible, and then allegedly these people would transform at night.
Yeah. So
that's weird too. Maybe it's all true and it's all false at the same time. Maybe we're just yelling at each other for no reason. But apparently, Lilith would make men her slaves through magic. They would make men impotent, and her symbol was the owl, which brings us back again to sacrifice and things like Molech and Saturn. Sacrifices for Saturn.
Yeah.
So, okay, continue on.
Yeah, so it says it's unclear exactly when witches came on the historical scene, but one of the earliest records of a witch is in the Bible, in the book of 1 Samuel, thought to be written between 931 BC and 721 BC. It tells the story of when King Saul sought the witch of Endor to summon the dead prophet Samuel's spirit to help him defeat the Philistine army. The witch rues Samuel, who then prophesies the death of Saul and his sons. The next day, according to the Bible, Saul's son died in battle and Saul committed suicide. And the verse says, 1 Samuel 28:7. Then Saul unto his servant, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor.
Endor? That's from Star Wars.
So, okay. Isn't that interesting, though, how the witch kind of prophesies that his son was going to die and he was going to die, and the next day it happens. So how do you explain that?
That's like saying, you're not going to make it through tomorrow, and then I come by and kill you later. How did I know? I fucking did it.
But it was in war. It was in battle. So she didn't do it.
This is biblical?
You know? Yes, this is from the Bible.
Do you believe the Bible?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, it's an interesting story. It's an interesting book.
That's true. I shouldn't have said, do you believe?
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Because how many interpretations have there been, you know? Like, how can we just go off of this English version that we've been taught?
I've always been like, I need to learn the original language or two was written in and then read it.
And good luck with that.
The original's in Latin. Just kidding.
So, and then there's like a ton of different, there was probably like 10 or so different verses in the Bible where they would kind of allude to witches or something like that. And then a couple of them I wrote down here. Exodus 22:18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Damn, that's fucked up. Leviticus 20:27.
Fuck a witch.
You want to fuck
Not
a
literally.
Witch? A man also or woman that hath a familiar spirit or that is a wizard shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them. Man, that sounds very judgmental from these all-loving Christians who want to accept everybody. Shouldn't you be trying to like get them on your side and stuff? But plus there was a ton of others. But yeah, I just seems very harsh because I just don't.
I'm good with it. That's like killing pedophiles to me. Like, they're not people anymore. They're so far gone. Like, if you aggressively rape a child, yeah, you should die. I don't give a fuck. Like,
again, so I think there were bad witches who were trying to use it for evil, and that's one thing. But I do think a lot of them, especially even now to today, are more of the natural healer hippie style, and I'm
that's
all
not
for
a
that
witch
shit.
though. That's just like
but
a
it is.
That you think like
is.
Then why do you have to go by witch and use tarot cards to see someone's future when you're just trying to make a fucking tincture? If you're gonna put some CBD,
I don't think see, that's where the Wiccan comes from, and not all witches are Wiccan.
Okay, nowadays everybody wants to be like. Nowadays there's 100 different fucking sexes. Like, you know, there's male, female, male, female, like all these other fucking weird ones that people make up. No offense to anybody who's fucking upset by that, but like nowadays people just pick and choose what they want to be. I'm a Christian that celebrates Halloween. I'm a male that likes other males. I'm a like, do you know what I mean? But like I think there's more truth in going backward in history and seeing where all this stuff kind of started, and like Wiccan, pagan, witch, fucking druid, like it's, as far as I'm concerned, it seems like it's a different part of the same machine. So I'm not going to be like, oh, you're Wiccan, so you don't sacrifice, so I like you. I'm be like, you're fucking tied into some fucking dark shit, and I don't want to be around that dark shit. If you're summoning stuff, and like people are like, oh, well, you know, I'm just, you know, I'm summoning the good. I'm doing it.
And like you were saying, like, just like, I think a lot of it was them
I am triggered. I hate witches.
doing like tinctures and natural remedies and things like that. And to me, I see nothing wrong with that shit. Because I'm all about, I don't want a pharmaceutical. I don't want a pill. Like, I would rather go to nature. That's where it is. You know, God is in everything, right? So it's like, you would rather go to nature. You would rather go to nature than go to, you know, big pharma or some shit like that. So that's where I'm like, I don't necessarily see it as being this evil thing. Again, I'm gonna say, I think there is that division between there's the good and evil, and there's good and evil in everybody, but
that's a Masonic thing. That's like solvent coagula. It's like people like, I forgot who it was, but he was an occultist. He said, I'd rather be whole than just good. So people like these occultists, they want to be good and bad. They're like, oh, there's good and bad in me, and I'm going to embrace both. So I'm going to give to charity, and I'm going to kill a child.
But there is good and bad in everybody.
But what's bad about just striving to be good and not acknowledging and not fucking feeding into the bad?
Yeah,
and there's no even proving that. We can't even test that. If we had a person that was born, I guess in captivity, that sounds weird. But like.
Born in bad.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. There's no way to test it. But the Amish are pretty isolated, right? Like they're pretty. I don't know. Like I think it's tough to say, but I also think shit has switched. I mean, a pharmacy comes from Latin pharmacia, which is like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the witches is the big pharma nowadays. And like people that do natural shit, I don't think they're looked at as witches, and I don't think it's bad, obviously. But I think all that shit is still around. It just transformed and like morphed a little bit. And now we're all made to look at, oh, there's just witches in the woods dancing around naked fire, sacrificing people. No big deal. You know, like, and there's all, I'm going off. Go ahead. Take the reins again.
Oh, good. I just thought it was interesting.
I have such a fucking, like, I'm so tired of seeing witch shit everywhere. Like you go to fucking Instagram and you go to like, you know, you put those little fucking stickers or whatever, you type in witch, there's a whole bunch. Yeah. You know, you type in religious and like it's a joke. Yeah, Christianity. Sure. And it's always like, oh, Christians suck. Here's some witch stuff. Like, fuck you, dude. You know, like oh God, what was it? The Little Hours? It was a movie on Netflix. Fucking hilarious, right? It was great. And then, spoiler alert, at the very end, it turns out like all the fucking females were witches and they're dancing around the woods naked around the fucking fire, sacrificing men, right? It was like just not necessary. Broad City was a great show. And then in their last season, they fucking meet a bunch of powerful women. They go out to the fucking forest and they become witches. This show, really? Pin 15, great first season, hilarious. Second season, they fucking get caught up in witchery. And like Pin 15 is supposed to be like 2000, I think. Like when we were like in middle school. Yeah. Like, and so they tackle like
my dad was watching that show, hilarious. Dude, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was really awkward.
Like
I knew that those, like the two main people were adults and stuff, but then they're like putting really sexual positions with kids as well. And I'm like, oh, this was really uncomfortable to watch. I was not into it.
It's same with Big Mouth. It's like, I don't even know if we need to be doing that, but it was really funny first season. It was like talking about like awkward stuff when you're 12, 13. And like, it's funny. It's relatable to an extent.
I didn't understand it at first. I had to like I was watching.
It took me a while to watch it.
Are you watching, Dad? And then I like looked it up. I was like, okay, these two are adults, but then they're like fucking around with like real kids in the show and stuff. And it was kind of just highlighting when they were like teenagers and stuff. And it made more sense to me that way. But I was like, I don't want anything to do with that show. But
like in the second season, they become witches, and like being a witch was not a thing when I was in middle school, which is when they're like talking about, which is when that show takes place. So it's just permeated fucking everything. It's being pushed as cool and normal and happy and fun.
It always has. I mean, since like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and
this revamp of Sabrina.
Oh, that one's even darker.
I heard. I didn't watch it.
My dad watched it. I didn't watch it. I've probably seen like little clips here or there of it when he's had it on, but I haven't watched it at all.
No, too much.
The most I'll go is American Horror Story.
And even that is too much. What is it, the 5th season? Roanoke? Dude, I watched Roanoke at the beginning of quarantine. I was fucking going crazy. It's just too graphic.
I have to watch that one again. Yeah, super occult on Netflix with Sabrina. It really is. Like, I remember just seeing brief parts on it when my dad had it. I'm like, geez, this is crazy. Yeah. But anyway, the origin of the association of the broad-brimmed pointy hat with witches is murky at best. One school of thought is that it is based on the peaked cap Jews were required to wear after a 1215 decree by Pope Innocent III. Rampant anti-Semitism soon caused folks to associate heretics, pagans, and demons with wearers of the so-called Juden hat. In the early 1700s, the image was co-opted by artists who immortalized the image in paintings of the old hag and the witch's hat we know today. So that's interesting, right? Yeah. Just how it kind of was rooted in anti-Semitism.
Allegedly. I think it comes from more of like the original wizard, whose name I don't fucking remember, but he like wore a big pointy hat and did magic out in the fucking woods. And it doesn't make any difference because I can't remember his fucking name right now, so everyone can look it up.
Prior to 1215?
I need to find it. I'll have to find it.
Because that's pretty early on, you know?
BC or AD.
AD. Current era is what they like to say now.
The Attitude Era.
I just thought that was interesting. A little...
Especially since the Jews have been caught numerous times sacrificing babies and kicked out of countries. So maybe there is some overlap there.
Yeah.
Not that I'm fucking anti-Jew, but I am anti-baby killing.
Yeah.
So if you're killing babies, I don't care what you are.
Exactly.
I'll fuck you up.
Witch hysteria really took hold in Europe during the mid-1400s when many accused witches confessed, often under torture, to a variety of wicked behaviors. So that's where it gets, I don't like, because you can get any information out of somebody being tortured. You know?
True.
They're going to be like, yes, I'm a witch. Like, stop torturing me, you know? So it's like, that's where it gets tricky to me.
What kind of torture do they use? Like waterboarding?
Probably, but I don't, it didn't say, obviously, but...
Sounds fabricated. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I'm sure torture's been used since the beginning of people.
Yeah, exactly. Within a century, witch hunts were common, and most of the accused were executed by burning at the stake or hanging.
Hear, hear.
Single women, widows, and other women on the margins of society were especially targeted. That just seems fucked up. Like, that just seems so fucked up to me. Between the years 1500 and 1600, up to 80,000 suspected witches were put to death in Europe. Again, that's so fucked up. That's a genocide. That's insane. Around 80% of them were women thought to be in cahoots with the devil and filled with lust. Germany had the highest witchcraft execution rate, while Ireland had the lowest.
Which is funny, because Ireland is where I was reading a lot of this stuff started, or is rooted.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the Samhain started. Yeah, so that's interesting how they kind of kept it cool, you know? But, man, that doesn't sit right with me. Like you're a single woman, you're a witch, you're put to death. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't like that. That's.
Was she doing math though? Because if she was doing math, she was probably a witch. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you're not supposed to kill anyone who doesn't deserve it, or anyone in general. Exactly. I guess is the rule.
That's why I'm just like, man, this is just some dark.
Who
shit.
wrote this? Where is this from?
A handful of different articles. I pieced together a few different, from 5 different articles I was reading, because I was like, let me see if this one matches with this one. Some of them didn't, and then some of it did. So,
yeah, same.
Yeah. As witch hysteria decreased in Europe, it grew in the New World Order, which was reeling from wars between the French and British, a smallpox epidemic, and the ongoing fear of attacks from neighboring Native American tribes. The tense atmosphere was ripe for finding scapegoats. Probably the best known witch trials took place in Salem, Massachusetts in 1692, and then we'll kind of get into all that stuff. Any thoughts on all of that so far?
Just keep going.
Okay. The Salem witch trials began when 9-year-old Elizabeth Parris and 11-year-old Abigail Williams began suffering from fits, body contortions, and uncontrolled screaming. Today it is believed that they were poisoned by a fungus that caused spasms and delusions.
Oh my god.
That would make sense.
Oh, totally.
What are you talking about,
dude? It sounds
if they're
so
out there in the
fake
forest
news.
and shit, and you eat a mushroom that you're not supposed to eat, that would fucking do that.
I've never heard of anyone, except for in this alleged story, eating the wrong mushroom and being like, oh no, I'm contorting.
Dude,
I'm speaking in tongues.
It's people tripping, and they weren't aware of that stuff back then. I believe it. I believe that shit for sure. As more young women began to exhibit symptoms, mass hysteria ensued, and 3 women were accused of witchcraft. Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, which is interesting, and
2 Sarahs?
Yeah, and Tituba, an enslaved woman owned by Paris's father. Tituba confessed to being a witch and began accusing others of using black magic. On June 10th, Bridget Bishop became the first accused witch to be put to death during the Salem witch trials when she was hanged at the Salem gallows. Around 150 people were accused and 18 were put to death. Women weren't the only victims of the Salem witch trial. 6 men were also convicted and executed.
6 men and 3 females?
18.
Okay, got it.
Well, 6 and then 12. It'd be 12 women and then 6 men for the 18.
Interesting.
In Windsor, Connecticut in 1647, Ailes Young was the first person in America executed for witchcraft before Connecticut's final witch trial took place in 1697. 46 people were accused of witchcraft in that state, and 11 were put to death for the crime.
Do we still have any of those like laws on the books? Like laws against witchcraft?
Ooh,
you know how there's like some places that have old laws?
I think there is.
Weird.
Yeah.
They don't enforce it, I'm sure.
No.
They say, go do it. Go do witchcraft.
In Virginia, people were less frantic about witches. In fact, in the lower Norfolk County in 1655, a law was passed making it a crime to falsely accuse someone of witchcraft.
Well, then how do you accurately accuse someone of witchcraft? Do they outline that?
They don't. Still, witchcraft was a concern. About 24 witch trials, mostly of women, took place in Virginia between 1626 and 1730.
Well, that's not
None
that
of the
much.
Accused were executed.
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
yeah.
I mean, except for the witchcraft they were doing.
Virginia did it right. A satirical article supposedly written by Benjamin Franklin about a witch trial in New Jersey was published in 1730 in the Pennsylvania Gazette. It brought to light the ridiculousness of some witchcraft accusations. Exactly.
Wait. So a high-level politician with connections was telling everyone that the witches were not bad? Weird. It's almost like they're on the same side.
It wasn't long before Witch Mania. That's hilarious, right? They've been calling it
What you gonna do
when Witch Mania comes
cast
for
a
you.
spell on you?
It wasn't long before Witch Mania died down in the New World and laws were passed to help protect people from being wrongfully accused and convicted.
I hate when they say like witch mania or satanic panic because I feel like it paints it in a light where people shouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Don't slant it.
Modern day witches of the Western world still struggle to shake their historical stereotype. Most practice Wicca, an official religion in the United States and Canada. Wiccans avoid evil and the appearance of evil at all costs.
Except for being Wiccan.
Damn. Their motto is to harm none, and they strive to live peaceful, tolerant, and balanced life in tune with nature and humanity. Their spells and incantations, thank you for that earlier, are often derived from their Book of Shadows, a 20th century collection of wisdom and witchcraft, and can be compared to the act of prayer in other religions. A modern day witchcraft potion is more likely to be an herbal remedy for the flu instead of a hex to harm someone. And again, I'm all for that.
That's bullshit. You can go talk to these people and they say that they do hexes. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they say
for sure.
like we do it,
Again,
or like if you do it, it's gonna come back.
They're not saying it's a blanket statement for everybody, but they're saying most likely it's going to be an herbal remedy type of thing instead of someone actually trying to summon some shit. Because I think people are more aware to be like, yeah, that's probably bad shit. But
here's where I'm at with all that stuff. If you meet a person,
call me naive.
If you're, I'm just kidding. If you meet somebody, you may not know if they're good or bad, right? It can take you a long time before you figure out someone is fucking like toxic in your life and you need to cut them out. So what makes people think that they're going to be any more like equipped to discern good and bad with stuff they can't even see? You know what I mean? Like I talked to someone who was just getting into this stuff and she didn't really know what she was doing, but she had like a friend or a roommate or something that like was kind of into it. And I was like, yo, you need to be careful. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. She's like, oh, no, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I'm pretty sure I can tell the difference. And I'm like, girl, you can't tell the difference between like someone who's good or bad in real life, let alone the unseen. And I don't think anybody really can. You know what I mean? There's a reason they fucking draw these pentagrams and shit on the ground. It's to keep the fucking demon within there. Even they know they can't keep it under control. Crazy.
But, okay. If it is more of just, like, what I believe, more of the herbal remedy and tinctures and that type of stuff, is that bad?
No, but I don't, like, that to me doesn't fall under the category of Wiccan. Like, witchcraft is manipulation of sound, vibration, and light.
Elements, right?
Sound, vibration, and light specifically. From a dude who claims to have been a witch. But that's what he said. Sound, vibration, and light. So if you're all about living in one with nature, living like not, fucking with nature, you wouldn't be manipulating those elements. Am I wrong? Like you're manipulating the elements to a benefit you see fit. That to me is not living in tune with nature. That's manipulating it for whatever cause you deem necessary.
Again, I would rather take a natural remedy to cure the flu than just ride it out.
Well, I would rather ride it out, but that's like, I get that, but would you want to go, but like Lady Gaga, she got put in the fucking forest naked, like blindfolded to find her way back. Like, that is different. Maybe I need to look more into what specifically Wiccans go by nowadays, but if you look by what people, it's so tough, man. Like, you look at like the Democratic Party, right? And on the surface, Democratic Party, they want good and this and that. Exactly. Then you delve a little further and it's like, oh my God, what the hell are these people? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I like question almost anything that gets too big for its britches or that has different sex. It just becomes confusing and entangling, and like, was it Washington that said, beware of entangling alliances? You know what I mean? And like, that's kind of my rule too. It's just like, nah, I'm just not, I'm not going to manipulate nature for my benefit.
That's interesting. So no fires, no bonfires.
Fair.
Right?
I've actually thought, like, not that I suffer, but I like kind of toil on my own about what I should and shouldn't be doing. Because if I was able to practice what I think we should be doing, I would be living like alone, away from everything. Just eating fucking plants and drinking fucking purified water from the skies or whatever. You know what I mean? I can't do that.
Yeah, you couldn't be drinking alcohol, like nothing. You can't do that. That's manipulation of the elements and shit.
I'm talking about witchcraft is sound, vibration, and light. I'm not talking about like...
So definitely bonfires.
Drinking water.
Definitely bonfires.
I'm not casting a spell with a bonfire.
But you're manipulating the elements.
Am I manipulating the sound? No way, man.
Yeah. It creates sound.
It does. I don't.
But you're manipulating it to create light and sound.
I'm creating fire.
And it changes the vibration of everything. You know what I mean?
I'm not doing it.
That's my understanding of it.
That's not mine. I'm
not fucking trying to make it fit your need.
No, I'm not. I'm trying. Like, I was born into a fucking world that I cannot control. And by the time I figured this shit out, I was already so fucking deeply rooted and like married. Exactly. I can't just go out and live in the mountains by myself. So I have to make it fit. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I guess saying fucking witches suck is the way I make it fit in my life. I don't know. Fuck witchcraft.
While it's probable some historical witches used witchcraft for evil purposes, many may have embraced it for healing or protection against the immorality they were accused of, which would make sense. Historically, practitioners of white magic were known as white witches, and they were more folk healers.
Jesus Christ. So basically, it's just
the
like...
White Witch in the Coven.
It's just like... what is that fucking story with Toto?
Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. Yeah. So it's Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. There's good witches and there's bad witches, but if you follow the good witch, everything will be great with you. No, man.
I'm out. I believe it. Most of the time, people say that the potions and incantations that witches used were either for medicinal purposes. Some said that they were purely for culinary purposes. Common ingredients that witches used were toe of frog, wool of bat, tongue of dog, lizard's leg, etc., etc. Actually, those were just the names of common herbs and ingredients used for potions making or cooking. This is to keep the recipe from being stolen or used by another, as well as being adding fuel to the fear of witches.
See, and I was reading that they kept bugs and small animals like on their property in their house so they could like use them in their rituals.
Yeah, I didn't read any of that.
Like, that's summoning demons to fucking inhabit this rat and then sacrificing the rat. Or, you know, whatever, for example.
None of what I read said anything like that. That's interesting. And I didn't try and just stick to one article. I was, like, going kind of all over the place with it. So, interesting stuff. One of the last notes I have, people who practice witchcraft experimented with herbs and potions and rituals that may have used the mandrake plant. Mandrake contains scopolamine and atropine, two alkaloids that cause feeling of euphoria in low doses and hallucinations in higher doses. The rituals performed in the nude called for the participants to rub an herbal ointment containing the mandrake on their foreheads, wrists, hands, and feet, as well as on a staff that they would ride. They were tripping, in my opinion. The friction of the ointment-coated staff on the witches' lady parts would absorb the ointment into their system and cause a floating sensation, and their description of that feeling is what perpetuated the symbol of the witch flying on a broomstick. So again, it just comes from them tripping, dog. Like, they were just tripping. They were using herbs and shit and just fucking
It's interesting
tripping.
they used it on their heads, wrists, hands, and feet, because that's like almost how Christ was crucified.
Mm-hmm.
Hands, feet,
Yeah.
thrown a crown. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's just a access point for stuff to sink in. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever,
probably more. Yeah, because forehead, yeah.
I mean, that
It goes
Ash
super
Wednesday.
easy. Yeah, like anything seeps in easily on those areas, I guess.
I mean, it's all
Yeah,
dermal.
for
It was
sure.
seeping anywhere.
Anywhere, but I think there's more fat in certain areas, you know what I mean?
And they put it on their twats too. I mean, vaginas too.
No, so they would put it on their broom or whatever, and then they would like ride it, and then it would like sink, get into them, and then that would cause the feeling of that flotation sensation.
Why did they write a stick?
I don't fucking know, dude.
That's
I think
weird.
they were just tripping. I just think they were just trying
But-
new ways to fucking trip, man.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Because there had to have been a first person that did that, and then they had to show it to all their friends, and then just became a thing everybody did as they were
Yeah.
tripping together.
Yeah.
I'm not about that. I don't want to live in that world.
So that was all I had. We have about like 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, Lord Sowin, which was actually a entity, I guess,
Yeah.
was represented by this stag and worshipped by the Druid. I blame all of this on the Druids. The Druids were those original fucking secret society people manipulating everything, demanding sacrifices, worshipping. After some time, they started to worship Lord Sowin. And from that came like Moloch, and the priests started performing human sacrifices. And that's what I associate most of that stuff with.
Am I tripping? Did I read that the Sowin, that deity, entity, whatever,
Yeah.
is supposed to represent the Grim Reaper? Did you read
I
that
didn't
at
catch
all?
that,
Okay, maybe
but
I'm
that's
tripping, but I
interesting.
did read something like one of these entities was then represented as the Grim Reaper that we know today, like that type of figure.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. I thought it was pretty interesting. I'm not sure if it was that. I should have wrote that down, but there was just so much I was getting to. I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how they were saying the witches would like transform into different stuff at night, and that's where like werewolves and all that stuff came from. Because that's like Harry Potter shit
like
too, you know?
Nightmare or something like that's.
Yeah, night hag and then nightmare. Like I think even like nowadays a mare is a type of horse. So if they were transforming into stuff at night, it'd be a mare during the nighttime, a nightmare. So that's probably a little bit of the etymology of that word.
Yeah, that's what I initially thought when you said that. I was like, oh, that nightmare. That's interesting.
That's trippy.
Yeah, it all comes from tripping. They were just all tripping, man.
I think they were all tripping on that adrenochrome. I think they were doing those sacrifice. I mean, like looking at what Caesar said about the Druids. They were like, apparently allegedly the bobbing apples thing came from these Druids who were just like, we're gonna kill a bunch of fucking people in this big wicker man. If you can get this apple out of this scalding hot water first try, then you don't get burned in the wicker man, but you'll have a deformed face forever. And if they didn't do it, they just chop their heads off. But these are the same fools.
Crazy.
There was a movie that came out recently with the girl who played Paige in Wrestling with My Family. And I think it's called Midsummer Dream or some shit like that. But it almost seems like a modern day like reimagining of Wicker Man from '73, or even like the one Nicolas Cage did that's a derivation of Druids sacrificing people in the Wicker Man. I think all of it came from worshiping nature and worshiping the elements, which I'm not about, which led them to sacrifice people, which I'm not about. And I want to learn more about the Druids now.
That's what's so fascinating to me is because like if in Christianity, in the Bible, it says God is in everything and you should worship God. So why wouldn't you worship nature? You know what I mean?
It
if
says
God is
specifically
in
not to.
everything, if God is in everything, why would you not praise the fucking trees? Like, why would you not give thanks to that? Like, why would you not
You give
do
thanks
that?
to God for making nature.
But
Biblical
it says
answer.
God is in everything.
Right.
It's not God made this. It says God is in everything.
It also says, like, specifically what,
and we
like,
have,
not to worship.
And we know
Back me up,
that
Isaiah.
God is a jealous God, and he said it 1,000 times in the Bible.
Back in the day, jealous meant, like, something different than what.
Believe in me.
No,
that's what it
no,
was.
that's
I was
that's
listening to the Bible, and that's what it says.
Jealous. They didn't mean
He fucking killed a ton of fucking people because
they were fucking killing people.
Because they didn't believe in him. And I just think, yeah, God was a jealous God. I just don't understand. If God is in everything, why are we not giving thanks to nature? And now we say it's a bad thing to do that. I just don't understand. And I'm definitely not triggered. It's just I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
I usually am.
It's like, if they say God is in everything, why are you gonna not give thanks or give praise to why we are breathing? And like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Biblically, you thank God for that because he created, if you believe the Bible. And he also says, don't worship nature, don't worship the moon, don't worship the sun, fucking sun worshipers, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I think it even says, like, something about, like, not taking you down a different path or some shit like that, but basically don't get caught up worshiping these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Created everything, exactly. And he's in
he created me, but if I worship myself, that's blasphemous. You know what I mean? Just to, like, kind of do it a different way.
Yeah.
But that brings us kind of back around to Quest Haven.
But you have to take care of yourself.
We should ask these Quest Haven people some of these questions.
This stuff, yeah, for sure.
Why does God say this, but you can't worship nature?
Yeah. Dude, I wonder if Instagram is letting us go longer now, because it's over an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Push the envelope.
They pushed the envelope. So that'd be pretty cool, hopefully, because I did see some that they might go longer. But that is all I had for today. So if you kind of want to end it, or we can just continue just talking shit.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's chill.
I think that's good. Broke the barriers. We're breaking on through.
No. Stay away from that thin barrier.
All right, so that is going to do it for today. I thought it was interesting how it all kind of tied together over the last 3 episodes.
And it's like foreshadowing our Christmas episode.
Definitely,
it's
that too.
It's really weird, man.
Definitely.
I don't know.
I know we're gonna have a lot of probably election stuff to go over the next episode or so.
If we're still here in a week,
I know,
or 2,
right?
Like, I don't even.
It'll be interesting.
I don't even want to. Honestly, this is more fun.
It is, but that's gonna be some crazy stuff.
Ugh.
Crazy stuff going on. Anyway, that is gonna do it. All the audio worked. Hopefully this should be uploaded to the IGTV. Looks like we finally got it back in order.
We have our
graphics ready, so be on the lookout for the audio tomorrow on YouTube.
First 100 days of Biden would be crazy. That could be your new boss, Isaiah. What are you talking about? You can't talk out against him.
Ooh.
If he wins, oh my god. If he wins,
be taking that vaccine,
bro, I'm
still be taking that vaccine.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to leave.
Yeah, it's it'll get interesting.
I think we can make a stand in Texas.
I don't know.
I think we can make.
That's where all the people from Hollywood are going now. So.
Oh, Hollywood, another Druid thing. That's what they used to make their wands out of.
Yeah, Hollywood, yeah.
We really are over an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just testing it a little more, but yeah, I mean, we're good. Now we're just going to talk shit, so.
All right. So, looks like everything's good. Audio will be up tomorrow at Cult of Personalities on YouTube. The Real Word Podcast tomorrow morning. And until next time, everybody, peace.